Ta-da! I tied my hair. How do I look? Horrible? Okay, I don't care. Let us talk about Pihu. It's a movie from India. I just watched it because Netflix insisted. This was inspired by an actual event. Okay, certain clarifications. The director said that the incident happened back in 2014 in India. There are some things going around in the internet that this was based on a story that happened in New York of I think a 4-year-old boy left alone in the apartment with the dead mother, which is very similar to the premise of the story, but according to the director, the actual event actually happened 2014 in India. We had to take his word for it. But he never, probably he doesn't remember, or I don't know, but he never actually named the actual girl that was in or boy or child that was in the news. So we will never know their names. We cannot ever identify unless he says it, but he has never. However, child being left alone in the house with a dead parent is more common than you think. When I was trying to get down to the bottom of the actual inspiration of the movie, I've actually came across so many news about children being left alone in the house with a dead parent. Can you imagine? So it's sad. It's sad, and the director was able to communicate that emotion, that sad truth about relationships, that many of us, many of the parents out there are actually not deserving of a beautiful kid. Okay, so now let's jump to the review. As I've mentioned earlier, there were several things I already knew about the film even before I watched it, based on the trailer and based on the reviews that I've read. Number one, that there is only one actor and it's a 2-year-old girl. And just based on experience, because I've produced and I've written some movies before, I know for a fact that there isn't much acting that you can ask a 2-year-old to do. Based on that, a large part of it is going to be editing. And so that's one of the things that I was actually watching. I also knew that it was going to be only done in one set. So the entire movie happened in one apartment. And according to the director, the child actually lived in the apartment during the entire shoot of the movie. And many of the reviews that I've read raved about the film. They said that it was really interesting how gripping it turned out to be, considering there's only one actor and it's a 2-year-old, to create the interaction otherwise missing because there's no other co-actors in the movie. He used stuff that you will find in the house as characters. And I think that was really a genius thing to do. A lot of the things that we use in the house on a daily basis, he managed to turn into an antagonist. So the stove, the iron board, the iron, the fridge, the faucet, all of those were turned into characters, and many of them presented the danger that is usually presented either by other characters or by plot points. And in the process of creating this story and the tension and the thrill, the director managed to make us realize just how dangerous this life that we've created, this life of convenience that we've created for ourselves, how dangerous this is to the innocence of a 2-year-old kid. Their simple outlook in life can be so threatened by the complications of the machines around us. That was a very socially aware, creative narrative, I think. What made the tension even more real is the child, Pihu. She wasn't really acting, I think. You can never identify a point where you feel like she was acting. She's a 2-year-old, and I don't really know how much acting you can ask of a 2-year-old. So I'm gonna have to credit the director on this one. He knew exactly where to position the cameras. He knew how to motivate the kid so that he can get at least to the vicinity of the emotion that he was going after. He did say that a lot of the writing was actually influenced directly by the behavior of the kid, precisely because you can't exactly ask her to do a take two. Whatever she does is what she does, and that's it. So I think there's a lot to be said about how he was able to plot the story out to follow her behavior, so that her behavior becomes a natural part of the script instead of forcing her to fit into the narrative of what he has originally written. She was also a great casting. You will just fall in love with the eyes of this kid. She's so cute, and the eyes are round and so expressive, so happy in, how she just has this joyful aura in her, which makes it even more sad, which makes the entire situation even more sad. So with all that being said, there is one aspect of the film that made me uncomfortable. It felt like the script or the story or the narrative was so manipulative. So many of the threats and the dangers are presented by the things that you will find in the house. And it came to a point where all of these threats and all of these dangers kept on piling up one after the other. Of course, in real life, you would never wish harm to a child. But when you're watching a story, you feel like, to a certain extent, at some point, with all of these threats, something's gonna get you. Something's gonna get the character. And that was when I started disconnecting. It felt like I was promised a roller coaster ride, and I was being slowly pushed to the top before the drop. But when finally I reached the top, somebody pulled me out of the cart and made me go down through the elevator, something like that. And so the drop never happened, is my point. It felt like that. It felt spoiled to me at a certain extent. I just feel like there was so much manipulation, and the rawness that I was interested in was just lost at some point. But I still feel that it's a good watch. I would still recommend it. I think it's a brilliantly executed movie, and the narrative, however solitary the situation was, it was solid. Yeah, I think it's still a breakthrough. The budget is very low, by the way. So this is a great example on how a great movie may be created without millions and millions of dollars and just one kid. So watch it. Watch Pihu.